everyone, welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 293 and today's topic is University Days, and we'll focus on your majors, what you studied in college or university. So it's simple. When somebody asks you, so what was your major? What did you major in? What did you study in school? You could simply say, my major was blah, blah, blah. I majored in blah, blah, blah. Of course, that is fine, but that's boring. You need to add more details to make your response much more interesting and to kind of spice up the conversation as well, okay? So we will practice doing that today. First of all, let's begin by listening to our conversation. It's time for Actual Talk.
I find here in Korea that people go to university and they have a clear track of what they want to do in the future. You see like Samsung executives who went to a university purely to focus on business,
right,
so that they could fast track themselves up through the company ladder, so to speak. Was that the same for yourself?
Definitely not the case for me and most of my friends. I studied kinesiology, which is the study of kind of human body movement. So I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Okay.
Yeah, not a physical therapist. Like that.
No.
Obviously. So I do a couple different things now for career-wise, but I am kind of trying to make the move back into the health field.
Oh,
so I'm not using my degree right now, but hopefully soon I will be able to. How about you?
Pretty similar, really. Let's be fair. Yeah, I went to university and studied psychology and philosophy as my major. So I had a clear idea that I was going to be a great psychologist, a la Freud, or a great sort of
revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to be a philosophy major and change the world. I suppose in some respects, being a teacher is sort of akin. There's philosophy and psychology aspects in there.
Right.
Like it certainly helps to be able to understand my kids when I can't get them to sit down or be quiet.
Right,
you know, you can see different personalities in different students, and that actually helps you as a teacher, I find. But it's not something that I would have looked back on 10 years ago and said, I'm going to be a teacher.
Right.
Obviously, going to teaching school and getting my PGCE would have been the better option, which is your teaching qualification.
But we can't always predict everything that's going to happen, so we just take what we've learned and try to apply it to our situation.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more.
All right, now today's actual talk conversation could have been a bit tricky, a little bit difficult to understand, but I'll try to help you as much as possible. So let's take a look at what Mary and Martin talked about. Here we go. First of all, Martin says, I find here in Korea that people go to university and they have a clear track of what they want to do in the future. Okay, they have a clear track of what they want to do in the future. Okay, let's take a look at this very first sentence. So we're talking about how things are in Korea, or what Martin has actually realized or noticed in Korea. So in Korea, a lot of people go to university. They have a clear track of what they want to do with the future. To have a clear track means to have a clear idea of what they want to do in the future. So he's saying that in Korea, it seems like a lot of people, they decide which college they want to attend. They decide what they want to do even before they go to college. They have a clear idea, a clear track of what they want to do. You see, certain company executives who went to university purely to focus on business. Here we go. Now these sentences are long, so I'm going to break them up to help you understand. So we're talking about certain company executives. It's an example. You see, as company executives, we're talking about employees, people or groups of people that work for a certain company, especially at senior level, okay, up there. All right? So these executives, they went to university purely, mainly, just to focus on business. Pure. If you say something is pure, it is 100%. Pure gold means 100% gold, right? So here, when you say that you go to university purely to do something, it means just to do that, only to do that. So they went to university purely to focus on business, to learn all about business, so that they could fast track themselves up through the company ladder, so to speak. Okay, let's take it up to there. Okay, so what do these people do? They go to university just to, specifically to focus on business, to learn all about business, so that they could fast track themselves up. Fast track. If you fast track something, or if you fast track your way up, it means to go up, get somewhere, or get to your destination. Get to that place very quickly, okay? So you can fast track something. Use the quickest way, okay? Do something the fastest way to get where you want to get. So, yes, through the company ladder. What is a company ladder? We'll practice that pattern later on, but imagine. A company ladder is just a term used to describe the hierarchy of, I guess, a company or an organization, the structure of an organization, how things are structured, the hierarchy of positions such as titles and ranks. Okay, so yes, fast track up the company ladder, which means you start as just an ordinary employee and you fast track up the company ladder, meaning you go up and up and up. You get promoted to a higher position, and finally, yes, you may even become the CEO of that company. Okay, so she says, right. Now he asks, was that the same for yourself, or was that the same for you as well? Definitely not the case for me. So this means no, not for me. It was not the same. And most of my friends, well, she did say and most of my friends, which is commonly said. But usually if you say definitely not, for me, nor most of my friends would probably be the proper way to put it, okay? But as I said, commonly it's said, not the case for me and most of my friends, that's fine. But just keep it in mind, the proper way to say it would be, nor most of my friends. I studied kinesiology. What is kinesiology? In Korean, I believe it's 신체 운동학 or 운동용법, which is the study of human body movements, the way the body moves, okay? So I wanted to be, a physical therapist. This is what Mary wanted to become. She wanted to study the human body movements, how our body moves, okay, as she studied kinesiology, and she wanted to become a physical therapist. So I do a couple of different things now, career-wise. Career-wise, work-wise, she does different things. But I am kind of trying to make the move back into the health field. She's trying to make the move back into the health field. It means that she's trying to get back into that field. She wants to, I guess, focus more on health-related things, okay? The health field. I'm not using my degree right now. We often get a degree, a bachelor's degree or something, so it's a title given to you, especially when you complete a course of study in college, for example. So she says, I'm not using my degree right now, but hopefully soon I will be able to. The question is, how about you? Now let's find out about Martin. Martin says pretty similar, really. Let's be fair. Now, I went to university and studied psychology and philosophy as my major, or as majors is something you could say, as a major is also used. So as a major or as my major. So the point is he studied psychology and philosophy. So I had a clear idea that I was going to be a great psychologist, a la Freud. Okay, this is Freud, but what is a la? Okay, there's a star which means it is one of our patterns for today. Allah. Believe it comes from a French word. Don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not good in French, but Allah something means something similar to. Okay, so he's saying, I was going to be a great psychologist. I had a clear idea. I wanted to become a great psychologist a la Freud, meaning similar to Freud, just like Freud, okay? And of course, Mary says a revolutionary. Now, if something is very new, innovative, it would be revolutionary. So that's what she means, revolutionary. Let's take a look at that vocab word later on as well. And Martin says, yeah, exactly. I was going to be a philosophy major and change the world. So, he wanted to be a philosophy major. He studied philosophy, and why? Because he wanted to change the world, make a difference. I suppose in some respects, in some ways, okay, in some respects, in some ways, being a teacher is sort of akin to it, okay. Now, Martin is a teacher. He's currently teaching students as a teacher, and so that is why he says this. He wanted to become a psychologist, a la Freud. He wanted to, be a philosophy major and change the world. And he says, I suppose in some respects, in some ways, being a teacher is sort of akin to it, is kind of akin to it. Akin is a word you can use in place of similar. So if you want to say that some things are similar, it's almost alike, you can say akin. Use the word akin. So it's sort of, similar to it. They're almost the same. It certainly helps to understand my kids. My kids in this case, since Martin is not married, he is referring to the students that he teaches, okay? The kids in his class. So it helps to understand my kids, the students, when I can't get them to sit down or be quiet, okay? When I cannot get them to sit down nor be quiet. I'm sure it helps. That's right. Your studies, psychology and philosophy will help you understand people's minds and the way people think, okay? So I'm sure it is helpful being a teacher. He says you can see different personalities, okay? Different personalities in different students. So we're talking about different personalities in different students. And that actually helps you as a teacher, I find. But he says, it's not something that I would have looked back on 10 years ago. Look back. This is simple, okay? Now imagine, I will act this out. Look back. Look back. I'm looking back. So you could physically look back, but look back also means to think about the past. Think about what happened in the past, beforehand, okay? So he's saying it's not something that I would have thought about 10 years ago. It's not something I would have thought about 10 years ago, looked back on 10 years ago. Obviously, going to teaching school and getting my PGCE would have been the better option, which is your teaching qualification. So I think the PGCE he is talking about is what? A teaching qualification. So if you go to a teaching school, you can get a certificate, for example. So if you study and finish a course of study, you'll be given a degree or even a certificate. So if you are given a written document of some sort saying that you are qualified, that you are skilled that you have completed the courses of studies you need to, then of course you can say that you have a teaching qualification or some sort of qualification, okay? Give you more information on that in just a bit. Moving on. Now, Mary says, but we can't always predict everything that's going to happen. Predict is what? Foretell, okay? Predict means to foretell. I guess, Could you predict the future? Could you foretell the future? Could you tell people or realize what's going to happen in the future? Nobody knows what's going to happen, so it's hard to predict what's going to happen. That's why she says we can't always predict everything that's going to happen. So we just take what we have learned, and try to apply it to our situation. And of course, Martin agrees by saying, definitely, I couldn't agree more. I agree with you 100%, 200%. Okay, so I think that today's conversation was a bit tricky. There were a lot of difficult words and difficult expressions, but why don't we take a listen to it one more time and I'll help you out with actual expressions. Here we go.
I find here in Korea that people go to university and they have a clear track of what they want to do in the future. You see like Samsung executives who went to a university purely to focus on business,
right,
so that they could fast track themselves up through the company ladder, so to speak. Was that the same for yourself?
Definitely not the case for me and most of my friends. I studied kinesiology, which is the study of kind of human body movement. So I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Okay.
Yeah, not a physical therapist, anyway, like that.
No.
Obviously. So I do a couple different things now for career-wise, but I am kind of trying to make the move back into the health field.
Oh,
so I'm not using my degree right now, but hopefully soon I will be able to. How about you?
Pretty similar, really, let's be fair. Yeah, I went to university and studied psychology and philosophy as my major. So I had a clear idea that I was going to be a great psychologist, a la Freud, or a great sort of
revolutionary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to be a philosophy major and change the world. I suppose in some respects, being a teacher is sort of akin. There's philosophy and psychology aspects in there.
Right.
Like it certainly helps to be able to understand my kids when I can't get them to sit down or be quiet.
Right,
you know, you can see different personalities in different students, and that actually helps you as a teacher, I find. But it's not something that I would have looked back on 10 years ago and said, I'm going to be a teacher.
Right.
Obviously, going to teaching school and getting my PGCE would have been the better option, which is your teaching qualification.
But we can't always predict everything that's going to happen, so we just take what we've learned and try to apply it to our situation.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, now it's time for actual expressions. Let's slowly, one by one, take a look at these vocab words from the actual talk conversation and also take a look at those patterns. First of all, we had executive. Executive. Let's take a look at the way it is pronounced. Executive. Executive. We're talking about administrator. Even better, boss. We're talking about employees, people or person at a company that are at a senior level, higher level, perhaps senior level, boss. Let's move on to degree. Degree. It's more of a diploma or a certificate. So a school, such as a university, will give students that finished a course of study at their school a degree, okay? So, all right, it is like a title, for example. What about revolutionary? It's a long word. Let's try it. Revolutionary. Revolutionary. Some synonyms are progressive, radical. Even better, innovative. Okay? Akin. Akin. Here we go. One more time. Akin. It means similar, related, alike, very much alike, similar, okay? And what is qualification? Let's take a look at the pronunciation. Qualification. One more time. qualification. So qualification is, let's say, for example, the exams you have taken or the requirements, criterion. So the exams you passed, for example, or it also means maybe the documents, okay, that you get that proves that you completed something and you are skilled in something. So qualification. Predict means what? Forecast or foretell, as I told you, to tell in advance. Okay, now with all of these words in mind, let's move on to our first pattern. Company ladder. It's like a ladder we often climb to get to a higher level. Okay, we climb from here up to there. So from first floor, if we need to get to the second or third floor, we can climb a ladder. But we're talking about a company ladder, okay? A ladder at a company. So we're talking about a hierarchy of positions, okay? Organizational structure at a company. Here we go. I started working here 6 months ago. I'm already being promoted to manager. Okay, so you're going up the company ladder. It won't be long until I climb the company ladder and become CEO. So we're talking about the hierarchical order of position, title, or even rank of a company. Okay, organizational structure is something you should keep in mind. And we have la, which means in the style or manner of. In the style of something, in the manner of something, or simply put, just like. Okay, here we go. My teacher taught us dance moves a la 1950 for our school dance. Okay, similar to, I guess it would be easier to understand this as a la 1950, meaning 1950 style dance moves. Okay, dance moves similar to 1950 dance moves. Okay, one more time. My teacher taught us dance moves, dancing movements, a la 1950 for our school dance. And finally, we've got looks back, look back, looked back. Okay. My mom always looked back on her school days. Okay. So my mom always looked back, looks back can also work as well. Looked back, we're talking about in the past. She would always think about the past. My mom always looks back on her school days means she always thinks about her school days constantly. She always thinks about her past, I guess those memories of the past. Okay, so please do keep that in mind as well. Look back or looks back, looked back. That is all for today's actual expressions. Job well done.